One thing you touched on was the victim mentality. And I know that in your work today, you have a method of taking yourself from the victim to the victor when it comes to chronic illness or chronic disease. Could you speak on that a little bit, and just some practical advice, even maybe for somebody who is feeling that way?
Sure. And this goes into the personal responsibility thing that I was very bad at it at the time, but I was starting to learn about it at 18. That's how you go from victor to victor. It can be summarized by saying it's a willingness to acknowledge that all the things in our life are our responsibility, even if many of them are not our fault. And it's not because I'm trying to be because people interpret this wrong. They'll be like, well, what about people that grew up in this country or grew up in poverty? Bro, I'm not saying that I don't respect that or think that that's very unfair. You're missing the point. I'm saying that if those people that grow up in those areas or had abuse in the childhood home or whatever it is, if all they do for the rest of their life is walking around saying what I was saying, why me? Why is this happening? I'm trying to empower them. Yeah. I'm not saying that they should just get over it. I'm saying that you're going to blame an abuser for you getting abused. You think that psychopath cares? Yeah. That's giving them even more power. Exactly. They wouldn't have abused you if they weren't a nasty person.
Yeah.
But you have to decide, that isn't my fault. And it's not even fair that it happened. It's not right. It should have never happened.
Yeah.
Someone should have been there for me. They weren't. I'm here now. All I can do is figure out what am I going to do to do something productive with this, and to make sure that I don't allow that person to victimize, or the situation or person to victimize me even further by not going and living my best life and doing the things that I need to do. And this next part is not something that everyone is ready to hear. And I get that, but hopefully they understand I'm at least coming from a respectful place. There's a great book called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. It's a little new agey for me at this point. I became a Christian only 2-3 years ago, so I don't like everything in it, but I like a lot of the principles. And he talks about how every failure comes with it an equal or greater seed of opportunity. And it's not that mental health, abuse, any of those things. There's not failures. That's not what I'm saying. But what he meant was any bad situation comes with it an equal or greater opportunity for something good. That's another way to word what he meant. And so people comes with it an equal or greater. It's the best thing that's ever happened to me other than my relationship with Christ. Best thing that's ever happened outside of that.
It's transcendent.
But no one wants to hear you speak. Never happened to me other than my relationship with Christ. Or greater, definitely greater in my opinion.
Wow.
Opportunity. But the personal responsibility is what links those two things together.
Okay.
That's the bridge.
You mentioned that coming to the end of your journey when you were 18, when you had your aha moment, then you also had, at the start, you had these mental issues, and then you also had these physical diagnoses. What do you believe is the link between mental and physical health? Do you think that they were created separately, or do you think it can derive from having mental health issues, or vice versa?
Sure. Well, for example, I had one of the things, thank God my skin's better now. It was severe cystic acne. So anyone's going to feel down if they look in the mirror and look like that. That's real. I get that. I'm almost thankful in a sense, just because I know it was something else. The fact that my mental and physical health issues all started at the same time. I know that they must have been connected. And so my conclusion now is this, and there are people way smarter than me that could probably give you the actual science behind this. I think largely what's happening in today's world at the simplest level is the toxins are too high, which is raising inflammation. Our ability to recover and rest, sleep, is diminished now because of artificial blue light, because of the go lifestyle that we all promote, college, all this stuff. All these things are the antithesis to health. And so we're not resting and recovering from the stress and the toxins that are happening. And then 3 is, I don't want to be the guy that just says, oh, it's like the gut. I do think the gut's a huge part of it, just because to have proper mental health means that you have the neurotransmitters in place to experience good mental health. If I'm not breaking down my food properly, I'm not eating enough protein, again, this is just at the simplest level. Yeah. If I'm not getting the right micronutrients, you will eventually have someone in front of you that does not have good mental health. Now, how do we know this? You can see people with, I'm sure you're familiar with this, maybe listeners aren't, celiac disease. Yeah. Celiac disease, is an autoimmune condition triggered by gluten. So it means when this person consumes gluten, the autoimmune response, very odd that this happens, but their body actually starts attacking its small intestine. Now, you know how most people get diagnosed with celiac? It's not from gut pain, and it's not even from celiac itself. They come in with other symptoms first, and then eventually they get diagnosed. It takes the average celiac patient, like I think it's like 5 or 6 or 10 years or something crazy to get diagnosed after starting their symptoms. You know how my friend got diagnosed?
How?
She got taken into a mental hospital because her family was so worried about her. Why did she have mental health symptoms? She's not getting nutrients.
Wow.
So once the celiac was uncovered and she started eating for that, oh, shocker, the mental health got better because her gut was healing. So not everyone has celiac. If people don't get what I just said, like, why does that matter?
That's a powerful example.
Well, right, but there's a small version of celiac, in a sense, happening to everyone. When we talk about leaky gut, technically called intestinal permeability, I can measure that in almost anyone that lives in a modern country, whether it's Ireland, whether it's the United States now, whether it's somewhere else in Europe or Canada or whatever. Almost everyone has this increased intestinal permeability because of the stuff that we put into our environment and our food. So everyone's experiencing some version of that. So if we do all these things, yes, do these things wrong, yes, people are going to manifest with mental health symptoms. So do I believe they were connected? Yes. I believed I was a highly inflamed, very reactive kid. My mom had a bunch of health issues. Her mom had a bunch of health issues.
Okay.
It was genetics loading the gun, and our environment pulled the trigger.
Wow.
I can't change my genes. I can change the environment.
Write that one down. That's incredible. That's such a insightful way to look at it. It really is. I love that. I wanted to touch on something you said about the blue light, because I find it interesting. I've interviewed now 4, 5, 6 experts, and every single one of them has the same through line. And that is, we need a full spectrum of light. We are getting too much blue light from our phones and our TV screens. We're not getting enough sun. And I would love to speak with you a little bit about circadian rhythms, because I know that's something that you are really interested in your practice.
Yes. Well, especially from the mental health side, not even just the physical health side. So one of the things I tell the kids at the very end of the presentation, and it's like funny because you think like, do you actually get into this with them? It's like, I plant the seed. I don't get into functional medicine, but I plant the seed. So kids under the age of 18 that stay up past 12 a.m. which is every kid.
No way. That's late.
Yeah, right. Well, in America, they're 42% more likely to be diagnosed with depression. Undiagnosed depression is the leading cause of suicide. Suicide is the second leading cause of death from 10 to 35 in America.
Oof.
If I told you right now that I'd increase your risk 42% and it would involve the second leading cause of death in your age range, you would stop that thing tomorrow.
Straight away. Yeah.
Never do it again.
Yeah.
But we don't.
No.
And people don't know this. And they don't understand that it's not just staying up late. It's literally killing kids. Literally. I'm not being hyperbolic. It's actually happening. And so we need to watch out for these things. Now, but you say, why are they staying up? Well, you have to be a good science thinker. Mental health issues can cause sleep issues. Fair enough. That's an argument. At the same time, do we have anything in today's world that might encourage a kid to stay up, or an adult to stay up a little bit later? Yeah, I got a few of those things.
Yeah.
So if we don't have the discipline for it, the light stimulates us. It tells the brain that it's midday. Like your just default settings on your phone and your computer are bright enough that it triggers the brain and tells it that it's midday. So you're now up at 12 a.m. looking at a screen that's telling your brain it's 12 p.m. Jeez. And that means even if you do fall asleep right afterwards because you're just so exhausted, because the adenosine's built up in your bloodstream, that's what makes us feel tired often, your melatonin's not going to secrete for another few hours. So if I look at what I was doing as a kid, we're on the phones and on the screens, I was talking to girls, whatever, until like 1 a.m.
Yeah.
I got to be up at 6 for school.
Yeah.
So now first of all, I need 9 or 10 hours of good sleep regardless as a teenager. We know that. So now I'm at 5 hours of sleep. My melatonin couldn't even really start fully kicking in until approximately, 3 to 4 in the morning.
And then you're up at 6.
No wonder you feel like crap every day. Here's a hint. If you feel like crap every day waking up, that's probably a bad sign of what's to come. I don't mean that as fear-mongering or pessimistic. It's just, here's my real message, right? I'm been this way the whole time of us talking today. If you feel like crap waking up every day, that's a warning sign. We're not doing something right. You shouldn't feel like crap.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's one of the things. Another one, and this is where I get a little upset, because what I'm about to reference was done in the 70s, like
Okay.
1973, I think it was specifically. So this was a study done by the Environmental Health and Light Institute, which was ran by Dr. John Ott. He's since passed. He lived to 90 years old, though, for whatever that's worth. And when he was born, the life expectancy was probably like 40 or 50. So he lived to 90. And he did this experiment where he took these kids in Sarasota, Florida, that were all in windowless classrooms. Now, my first thing that I thought when I read this study, I don't know if you just picked this up, why on earth would you have windowless classrooms?
Why do they
Sarasota,
exist?
Florida? Yeah, come on. Why are we even in Florida?
Yeah.
Like, come on. So they have these windowless classrooms, and most of the classrooms, the 4 that he did, had fluorescent white bulbs. So he replaced 2 of the classrooms with full spectrum lights. And what's so funny is people don't know this. These lights still exist to this day. Artists use them. They're called Ott lights. Any artist out there that's been to Michael's has seen the Ott lights on the thing. They're full spectrum light, or on the shelf. They're full spectrum lights.
So your whole house could be lit with full spectrum light.
Yes. And there's other places that do bulbs. Bond Charge does them now.
I'm going to put a link in the notes of this
I got
episode
you.
because that is absolutely fascinating. That should be like general knowledge. That should be the standard.
Yeah, and not affiliated with any of these things. So
Yeah.
it's like, we'll share it with you guys. You should get affiliated.
Yeah.
We'll share it with you guys, and just go get them. Well, of course, we're recording this earlier than it would be out. I'm like, we're recording it near Black Friday. That was a silly idea. That didn't make sense. So sorry, you guys will have to wait. But you could put these things in your house. My wife is an artist. She paints people's pets. And so it's so funny because like she knew what the Ott lights were because she saw them in the store and stuff. But the reason that they use them for artists is because the light's so good that it the colors look great and the painting looks nice. But the bottom line is it's also good for our health. So he split up these 2 classrooms. One of them continued to get the bulb, the white fluorescence. The other continued to get the full spectrum lighting. Now, this is really stunning, and these are still studies that you can find online. So all of these classrooms had one thing in common outside of the lights. They were all classes with problematic kids and underperforming grades.
Okay.
So they switched the lights. Within 1 month, one of the 2 classrooms that got the full spectrum bulbs reported no outbursts or disturbances anymore in the kids. And these kids don't know what happened. It's a placebo. They have no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
So they have no disturbances. Eventually, one of the classrooms went up in a letter grade on average. And here is the craziest part. This is the part that makes us realize, or makes me realize at least, we have no idea what we're talking about yet with this. We know it's important to get out in the sun. That's great.
Yeah.
No. It's essential. Other doctors got involved with the study. He kept doing this over many months. These dentists were involved as well. You tell me how this makes any sense, because this is in the data. 3 months in, the dentists reported that the kids, that were in the full spectrum bulbs had 1/3 less new cavities than the kids in the white fluorescence. That it is 1,000 times above my pay grade to understand what that means or what that is, but that's something.
That is
And
something.
so-
I feel mobilized to change some light bulbs. Like I want to go to my kid's school and be like, don't worry about it. I'll do the light bulbs. I got it covered.
It's like, what on earth do you make about that though? And I'm sorry, because I know that you've had these experts on before. Have you ever had anyone on that talked about like Weston A. Price and diets?
No, I haven't heard of that one.
Okay. Weston A. Price is just known because it's basically the only real research that we have, or good research that we have, on tribes and what they would have ate naturally.
Okay,
so
yeah.
Early 1900s, he goes and studies 14 different indigenous tribes. So they don't communicate with us. They're friendly, but they don't use our medicine or use our food. And he was a dentist, actually. So he was looking to see if their teeth were screwed up like ours or if they were perfect. And if you guys, it's fun to look up on Google, actually. You go to Google Images and type in Weston A. Price tribes, and you'll see, these people, they have spears, right? They are living with loincloths and stuff like that. So we look at them as primitive, and yet the irony is they have better health than us. They're very robust physically, and their teeth are perfect. So he thought, it's because of the way they eat. They all ate like organ meats. They obviously ate high quality because it's coming from the earth.
Yeah.
I do think that that's a huge part of it. No one ever sat and said, though, these tribes live outside.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because you can get like these brilliant researchers, and then we see things now, and I don't even think I would have figured it out. It's because I heard it from someone else, right? But these people are so smart, but the research is still flawed. He was so focused on the food, no one ever thought to come along and say, probably till 100 years later, did we ever consider it's because the tribes are outside? And so again, the food matters, but it's like they're outside. They're grounding, earthing. I know most people probably heard of that. It's You and I are lucky if we earth 20 minutes a week.
Tell me about it.
Their entire lives from the second they woke up or were born. I'm sorry. So who knows if those other variables play a role? I believe that they do. But knowing now what I know about the light affecting the cavities, I'm like, oh, I think there's something.
Oh, there's no denying the importance. Absolutely. Yeah, cool. Evan, this has been absolutely fascinating. We don't have very much time left today, but we are going to need to have a part 2 to this interview. Okay. I have so many more questions. I want to get way into your experience and your career within functional medicine, lab testing. There's so much more I want to know. But for the last couple of minutes, please tell our audience, where can they find you if they want to get some more information, if they want you to come speak at their school?
Sure. I don't have anything to sell you. I mean, I guess I could sell you a speech. So if you are interested in that, though, for colleges or high schools, that's pretty much what I limit it to now. I don't do middle schools for a variety of reasons, but in certain circumstances, hit me up. It's not a waste of time, but generally I do high school and college now. It's just evantransue.com. I'll get you hooked up with the woman who works for me. Her name's Kristen. She's awesome, and she sets everything up. We get on a call. Everything up until that point's free. We see if it's a good fit. I see exactly what you're looking for. It's usually best for schools, and they know who they are. Best for schools and colleges where they know that there's a lot of mental health stuff going on. They know people might even be talking about it amongst themselves, but they're having trouble connecting to the authority figures in their lives, like the teachers or whatever. My whole message at the end is always about, like, I actually use logic on the kids more or less. I say, you tell me if you think these like teachers care and stuff. It's very dramatic. It's kind of funny because I'm like, you guys think these teachers don't care. Why am I in the school then? Yeah. And then everyone goes silent and they're like, oh yeah, wait, maybe he's right. I'm like, you guys got to let them know what's going on. I wouldn't be here if they didn't care, man. So I'm good at connecting that way. evantransue.com. For anything functional medicine, if you like hearing stories about people who have overcome crazy health challenges, I always say this on our own podcast too. If we have a guest that has a podcast, podcasts like TV shows, right? Or like the new version of TV shows. You have a favorite, but you still listen to multiple. So I'm not asking you to swap for our podcast.
Oh no, absolutely.
It's crazy. But check it out if it's something you're interested in. So you can find all the resources for that at, it's a mouthful, functionaldiagnosticnutrition.com/podcast. So evantransue.com for personal stuff and speaking, functionaldiagnosticnutrition.com/podcast for the podcast and all the other resources we have.
And as usual, I will put all of those links in the show notes of this show. And I just want to say, Evan, that was incredible. I was so happy to talk to you today. And I believe that we will be coming back with a part 2 for sure. Thank you guys so much for listening. And as I always say, until next time, stay well.
Hey guys, I would like to take a moment to introduce you to our app, Yoga Plus. You will have access to an incredible selection of videos led by top instructors in yoga, fitness, nutrition, and so much more. Download our Yoga Plus app available on iOS and Android today. Hey guys, I would like to take a moment to introduce you to our app, Yoga Plus. You will have access to an incredible selection of videos led by top instructors in yoga, fitness, nutrition, and so much more. Download our Yoga Plus app available on iOS and Android today.